today. Hi, Lisa.
Hello. Welcome everyone. I was thinking as I was preparing for this and I was looking through all my scholarly information on American Psychological Association and Edutopia, the sites that I get most of my information from that, wait a minute, this is me. And it's probably a lot of you too. You know, I'm the mother now working from home, trying to educate her children. And I would imagine some of you are as well. So we're going to go through a lot of the statistics and information that I found, but I think we all know how this is going. And just to summarize it, and please feel free to jump in. You know, it started out, we thought this was for the short haul, and we were all primarily worried about safety from catching the virus. And we all came running home and quarantined, and that was one phase of this. But as this fall has come, I think we're all looking for the long haul, that, you know, we're having to figure out, do we want to send our kids to school or do we want them to only live from home? And some of that is dependent upon what is available in your community, and that's very different from community to community. Some of us are working from home and some aren't, and some have a partner, as I do, who is working outside of the home, and I'm working in the home. And you know, guess who all of this mostly falls on, you know? And so I think that is important to remember when we're reading through all of these statistics, that it also varies from home to home. And that one of the things that what I was reading in, again, a lot of the sources that I rely on, is that we have jobs and health insurance. So it's stressful enough for us, and the concerns about, is my child going to learn anything this year? And now I have to be a partial homeschooler and my job hasn't let up. So there's all of that. But for many folks out there, there's a lot of the statistics we're going to be looking at here in a minute. Parents have shifted, again, from the concern of protecting their family from coronavirus. I'm sure that is still huge on everyone's mind as well, but many folks are feeling the stress and the crunch of, how do I homeschool from home? I'm not a teacher. Is my child going to learn anything? But even more so, as we talked about last week, 1 in 6 families are now food insecure. And we have a real problem with people not paying their rent and worrying about evictions. So housing is one of the top 3 concerns for you know, the working poor or people who have lost their jobs. So I think we can all relate in some ways, and then I think it's even more stressful for about 30% of the folks out there who have lost jobs, who are facing housing uncertainties and food insecurity. So so I think that as we go through these statistics, I think it's really important for us to be mindful about what the experience is for all of us, but that some of us are stressed in even more ways. So with that, if we could go to slide 2, Sulin. I hate it when I'm at a conference and people show slides and then read me the slides. But here, I made up this slide. You guys, you know, can look at this through me. I was kind of shocked by this. This came out in August. The New York Times did a nationwide poll and they're following these folks every 2 to 3 weeks. There's about 1,500 families across the country they're talking to every couple weeks, and they're just tracking the decline in a lot of people's mental health within families. So in the Midwest and East Coast, many aren't they're just starting school after Labor Day. So as you can see, 1 in 7 parents are planning to do all homeschooling. I know in Carson City School District, it's 30%. So again, I think in all of your communities, it may be different. I was kind of surprised by this. 4 of 5 parents say they have no outside help in educating or providing childcare for their children. I think that's just how our society has kind of evolved, as we tend to move away from extended family members. We become more and more isolated, and I think some of this has to do with the struggles of social distancing. It's hard to get even neighbors or older relatives to help if it's not safe to be around children because of safety reasons for COVID. More than half of parents will be actively overseeing remote learning. That's a lot. Wow. So I would imagine those are the folks coming your way in libraries. And then 75% said they're still responsible for managing their children's e-learning schedules. And so, and then 54% of mothers and 29% of fathers are reporting a sense of loss and feeling stranded as they're navigating their children's education. And again, I think this has to do, feeling stranded, I think a lot of teachers are overwhelmed. They're trying to figure out how to navigate teaching online. Again, I don't know about you all, but this week with the smoke here in Carson City, my children have been home, and this is nothing against the teachers because I totally get it, but they basically sent a paragraph saying, have them look over the stuff we're working on in class. They know what it is. And so, I'm not saying I feel stranded, but I think a lot of us are, what the heck does that mean? I don't even know what to do with that personally. And 6 hours, okay. So, I think a lot of us are just trying to figure this out at the same time as we're having to figure out. I'm a psychologist. I'm switching from in-office to all telehealth, so I think we all just have so many balls in the air. And so if we can go to the next slide before, I know I'm depressing everyone, but I just want us all to be very mindful of what we're all going through, what parents and families are going through, and how it's affecting. So we kind of talked about the experience of why it's happening, the social part of why it's happening, and now we're going to talk a little bit more about the emotional toll on parents. And then we're going to talk about how to help. So don't worry, it's going to get more helpful here. So this is University of Oregon has been doing this development early childhood survey. It's been ongoing, same thing. They are just kind of following the same group of people. They've been following the same group of people for about 10 years. And obviously what they're doing is shifting during this pandemic, but they tend to focus on younger children, but I got some statistics as well and stuck it in there for older families with older folks as well. um, what I didn't put in here, and I'm not sure that this is going to affect librarians, which is why I didn't get into it a lot, but pregnant women are some of the most stressed parents because of concerns of going to the doctor a lot and being exposed, and then going to the hospital for the delivery. What if they have to stay in the hospital for a couple of days if there's any complications? And then being home and being extremely isolated with a newborn. So that's a side note. Not sure if that's going to impact librarians or not, but that's a little side note there. Um, Particularly parents with children under 5 are feeling very stressed. Why? Because they're not even having the homeschooling going on, right? They're trying to work and entertain or create some kind of learning preschool-like environment for their children. Many preschools are closed, as we know, so lots more families with children under 5 having children at home. Daycares and kindergartners, 78% of parents are reporting increases in behavior problems, not surprisingly. This was interesting. American Psychological Association gave this next one. Parents report they are yelling more, but they did not give a statistic. And it was hypothesized probably a lot more hitting as well going on. 63% say they have lost or are getting much less emotional support. And again, the switch from it's not, their primary stress is no longer health and health issues, that for many of the parents out there, about 30%, it has switched to how do I feed and house and clothe and try to educate my children. And again, that 1 in 6 families are now food insecure. We talked about last week, it might be helpful for librarians, although I know this isn't necessarily your job, to have some resources about in your community where families might get food if they need it. And I think that one of the things I know teachers in Carson City are trying to focus on as well is trying to figure out when kids are struggling, if it is because they are hungry, and trying to focus on getting food to families as well. So if we go to the next slide, it's, the question is, how can librarians help parents? And again, it's not that you're expected to become a social worker or a psychologist overnight. But I think all of us are having to become a little bit of everyone overnight. And so just kind of going back to about what we talked about last week with how do we provide students with the emotional support we need. I think a lot of the same is how do we help parents with the emotional support they need. And to begin with, it is listening to them and empathizing with them and finding anything positive that they are doing that you can affirm them for. Again, making sure it is coming from a genuine place, but really, we parents out there aren't getting much positive. All I'm getting is the complaint gallery. I mean, over at my house, I've got a middle schooler and a high schooler, and I haven't done anything right in weeks, maybe months. So I mean, so any kind of affirmations we can be giving parents, even if you have to take your magnifying glass out, I think that if it can come from a genuine place, I think that we all need that affirmation. And I think some of why I give the statistics that I do is I think we all know when this is normal, what we're all going through in our experience, and that we're feeling stressed and overwhelmed and don't know how to be a teacher and still do our jobs. That I think that when we let parents know, hey, what your experience is, you're feeling overwhelmed, you don't know where to get this information, you don't know how to implement it. Of course you don't. And just so you know, mom, dad, everyone's feeling like you are. I think that that really helps. Despite how depressing these statistics were as I was going through them, I found comfort in them in some sick way. I was just like, oh gosh, it's not just me, or um, there are some places to get help out there. But as we've been talking about, working with folks who are stressed and overwhelmed and don't have a lot of time, and they're trying to get stuff done fast and grab stuff fast, it can be overwhelming and frustrating as people are unpleasant. We talked about, people being disrespectful last week, but I think parents also fit in that same boat. They're stretched thin. When we're stretched thin, our brain doesn't work, and our personality just is frankly not very pleasant. And so when we come from a grounded place of knowing that the person in front of us is truly doing the best they can in a pretty undoable situation. They don't have a lot of support. They don't know how to be teachers. They're still trying to work. They're struggling with money worries and food worries. Almost everyone really is just doing the best they can. And I think when we come from that place and we're taking our deep breaths and we keep telling ourselves this, and that we just want to try to be a helpful force in the world in whatever way we can. When we think like that, we just are going to feel better, even if we don't get positive feedback, even if they don't say thank you, even if they, say what you're doing isn't helping, just to try to feel that you are coming from this genuinely grounded, helping place. They're doing the best they can, and you're going to do what you can for them. Keep good eye contact going, really empathizing with them, telling them they're doing the best they can. Everyone's going through this. And then having some pretty concrete skills for, again, going back to that, helping them more than you used to help people, I think is really important. I notice in the websites I go to, if it's not just boom right there for me to click on, I'm on to the next site. I can't be weeding through a bunch of stuff. None of us can right now. So the more you can really walk them to where they need to go, hand them what they need, find out, try to really simplify what it is they need, and do as much as you can of hand holding and giving, literally handing them the information. I think would be really helpful. I wondered if this would be appropriate, and I'm happy to kind of come up with this handout. But again, I think maybe just like kind of 3 websites you librarians in Nevada are recommending. Not that anything else is bad, but again, just really simplifying information. Some of the best, most user-friendly information I could find, or that I thought might be helpful for you guys to give to parents, are first Edutopia. You may already be well acquainted with that. It's just such a great user-friendly website, and it is for homeschooling parents that are wanting to supplement what their children are learning. Very good. I'm going to put that on the list. Childmind.org, same thing, much more focused at childmind.org on executive functioning, attention and concentration, helping parents with children with learning disabilities, a lot of mental health tips for parents and families. And the next slide I found is something John Hopkins put out. This is uh, it's they put this out. It is mimicking a lot of the information I found on various websites about, this kind of summarizes what everyone's saying. Um, and it might be helpful just kind of to have a handout for parents. Again, I'm not sure if that's appropriate or not. You can all decide that. But here it is. The general point of what John Hopkins and other websites, American Psychological Association, what they're, kind of what everyone is saying is how parents and families used to care for themselves has to shift. So before we could go out for an hour-long walk, or whatever parents used to do has to be condensed, but has to be a priority. It's going back to that metaphor we've all heard so many times before, that on an airplane you have to put your oxygen mask on before you can help anyone around you. It's going back to that metaphor, really helping parents realize, yes, even if you take 5 minutes and text friends or have a quick conversation reaching out. 5-minute yoga videos are now popular on a lot of websites because people are just having to do mini versions of the coping skills they used to do because people have a lot less time than they used to have. I wanted to point out one of the things I read in quite a bit of the websites. And if you look here under number 2, setting realistic expectations,